Trump's lawyers discussed their strategy. After the arraignment, they popped outside and gave a press conference. We got a much better angle on this conversation this time. And you see in this frame, Joe Tacopina, the New York lawyer who has been long on Trump's team. And then we have the new addition, Todd Blanche, who is in this box here. And he was the latest addition. He just recently resigned from his law firm, came and joined the Trump defense team. And then off the frame, off camera, is going to be Susan Nicholas. She's here on the corner. You can see her hair sort of poking out a little bit. This is what they said immediately after the arraignment.
There was no admonishment
that the president not use language that would incite violence or civil unrest.
He did not request that the president not use language. He requested that everybody involved refrain from using language that's inappropriate. And by the way,
so this has been a talking point that the media has been using. Oh, the Trump judge told Trump, don't incite another insurrection, you insurrectionary maniac, you know, that type of stuff. It never happened. Todd Blanche, Trump's defense lawyer, says, no, he didn't say, Trump, stop your mean truths. He said, everybody be very careful on this case, okay? It's a high-profile case. Exercise caution.
Did not use language. He requested that everybody involved refrain from using language that's inappropriate. And by the way, that includes the witnesses for the people who are talking just as much.
It also includes the former president swinging a baseball bat at the head of the Manhattan DA.
Well, I don't know where you got that, because if
that
you
was a tweet sent out by the former president.
No, it wasn't. And first of all, that picture was not him swinging a baseball bat. I mean, if you want to distort the facts, go right ahead. I want to address that. Yes, it is. He wasn't swinging a baseball bat at anyone's head. That was a picture of him showing off an American-made bat. But someone else put a picture of the district attorney next to him, and in an article posted that. That's not his article.
We already debunked that here. We pulled up the story. Basically what happens, you know, when you share a story on social media, you just share a link. You've done this. And then the social media site will pull the story and it will pick an image, and then it will populate the image into the feed. And that's what Trump did. He shared a story, and somebody else, the author of the story, and I don't know if this happened before he posted the tweet or after the tweet, if he posted the truth with the link that had the bad photo, or if he posted the link, the author saw the link was posted and then updated the photo. I don't know. But regardless, the photo was a picture of Trump holding a bat. He's like, yeah, like this is a nice bat. And then it's just put next to a picture of Alvin Bragg. And they said that Trump like made that picture and put it together and posted it. I'm going to murder him with a bat, you know, and all this stuff. What are you talking about, weirdos? He just shared a link to the story. And then Trump even deleted that post because it was a problem. So that is Joe Tacopina explaining that.
Not using language that incites.
Guys, here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the insufficiency of this case. And I will say this to you. Today's unsealing of this indictment shows that the rule of law died in this country. Because while everyone is not above the law, no one's below it either. And if this man's name was not Donald J. Trump, there is no scenario we'd all be here today. Please understand that based on these charges.
What are we going to get
True.
tonight when he speaks?
When? Yeah, 8 o'clock.
What are we going to hear?
I don't know. You'll hear.
Under the trial in January, did you think that was realistic?
No.
Can you guys talk about, there's a lot of speculation about the unity among the defense attorneys.
Look at this. Look at us.
Love
Is that why
it.
you chose to do this?
Love it. Unity and harmony amongst the Trump defense team. They say, we love each other. We're prepared to defend the former president. Now, Glenn Beck had on Joe Tacopina on his show, and they had an interesting conversation. And I wanted to parse through some of this here. Glenn Beck asks him a question about the strategy. What's the defense team strategy? Are they going to be filing all sorts of motions, or how is this going to break down? Here is the conversation.
Look, here's the thing. We are going to be making ferocious motions in this case. We're going to cover every angle to get this ridiculous case thrown out of court. It doesn't belong in court. We are going to obviously consider whatever legal motions, including recusal, change of venue, if they're appropriate. Look,
isn't it appropriate? Don't you think the recusal of the judge? I mean, that's a conflict of interest. Like crazy.
You would think. And these facts came out, yesterday. Apparently, his daughter works for the vice president. But look, again. We have to be very methodical in our attacks here. We don't want to do anything with a knee-jerk reaction. We don't want to make emotional decisions, and we'll do all the research and everything we need to do. We have obviously several months to make these motions, and we're going to take our time and do them right, because you have one bite at this apple, and there is no scenario where we're going to miss anything. And any angle that we can take that legitimizes our legal attacks on this case, I know it's going to be successful, because I don't think this case is ever going to see a jury, Glenn. I really don't. It shouldn't see a jury, but we would need to have intellectually honest judges to make sure that happens, and hopeful that we're going to have one here.
Hopefully they get a good judge that is intellectually honest, is what he said. He probably knows this judge. I don't know why he wouldn't know the judge. He's been practicing there for a long time, and I think the judge has some experience already on other Trump cases. So I think that's exactly the right take, to be perfectly honest with you, that it is slow. I know a lot of people are outraged and a lot of people want to see immediate action, but from what we see here, I do think it's appropriate to be slow, methodical, strategic. We know that these next upcoming dates and motions deadlines are not even for a long time, and there's no real reason to rush it. We'll see what his lawyers do. It could be quick and easy. It could be a statute of limitations issue. Filed, dismissed, next case. We'll see. Now, we turn our attention to Alina Abba. Alina Abba is one of Trump's most brilliant legal theorists, and she was on with Tucker Carlson explaining her reaction and the Trump team's reaction to the arraignment, the prosecution by Alvin Bragg.
So unless we're misreading this, the actual crime is not listed in the indictment? How can that be?
He's a dummy.
It's unreal. Honestly, Tucker, let's talk about what we can see in the indictment, which is the years and the dates. And I'm no crazy, brilliant human being, but I'm pretty sure I know how to read a calendar. So
Alina,
we have dates going in February 2017 for a few months there. Where was President Trump in February 2017? In the Oval Office. Okay, so what they're saying is there were checks written to his former lawyer while he was in the Oval Office. That's in Washington, D.C. So just on its face, what we do know from this, what he failed to put in was any factual basis, of course, as you pointed out. But what we do know, Tucker, is that he was sitting in the Oval Office. Now, explain to me how that's campaign finance interference, how that affected the election when everyone knew about Stormy in 2016. It makes no sense on its face, which is probably why it's intentionally vague.
Yeah, well, you have to ask what is the crime that he's charging, and then what would be sufficient to prove that crime? It's the falsifying of the business records in order to conceal or to commit another crime. And he has said that it was to conceal information from the 2016 election, but not really. Everybody was talking about Stormy Daniels. So what was concealment? What was concealment? What's the standard of that next election crime? How do you fill that bucket? You know, you can get a DUI if you drive over a certain limit. What is concealment for election crimes under the standard in New York? Well, they haven't told us what the charge is, so we can't look at the statute to see what the standard is. And they don't know what it is either over at the Team Trump.
Well, sure. I mean, do companies commit federal crimes when they have their employees sign non-disclosure agreements? As every single one of them does every single day? Probably not. Look, if Trump had committed a crime and they were alleging it, I would not defend him. If he was caught bribing someone or hurting someone or stealing money.
Correct.
But this doesn't even approach the appearance of a crime, which is the scariest part. This is just election interference. Am I missing something?
No, you're not, Tucker. You're exactly right, Tucker. Thanks for having me on. In fact, we've taken a lot of looks at what Michael Cohen has signed himself. He is the key witness. He's the only person listed in the indictment. And he signed material saying he waived privilege. He was working with Robert Costello, had conversations with Robert Costello. Robert Costello even presented his version of the conversation to the grand jurors and explained to them that Cohen told him Trump had no involvement with this at all. It was regular routine business. And if you look at the indictment, it goes even further than that. It's a recurring 3 felonies every month, which is consistent with a retainer agreement that the Trump organization might have with Michael Cohen. So we don't even need to look at what was wrong beyond these other election charges, because facially, it appears that there is no retainer problem because there is more or less a retainer relationship. Now, again, in New York, I don't know if you have to have a documented retainer in order to execute legal services with a lawyer, but I can't imagine that is a requirement. And if it is, I can't imagine that that is a felony requirement that they're prosecuting other lawyers for engaging in relationships with their clients on a cash basis or on a verbal contract basis. Because if you're paying a monthly retainer, you just stop. If they stop paying the retainer, the lawyer just stops performing the services. So it all fits perfectly within the realm of legality. Everything they're alleging here is garbage.
No, you're not missing anything. And by the way, in order to have an effective NDA, you should probably have some consideration, which is called money, right? So for all the non-lawyers, we do this all the time. We do this all the time. And when you have somebody extorting you, which Mark Pomerantz said in his book he believed this to be, and I recommend that you all take a close look at that, he lays this out. We had Michael Cohen, who was a convicted felon and liar, who was afraid of what was going to happen to his wife. We have Mark Pomerantz admitting that they couldn't bring charges. Neither could the FEC, who regulates this. Alvin Bragg stood up today and said he was bringing a state federal crime. That doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. It's federal crime. It's not a state crime. It's
Tucker's laughing too. They're both having fun. It's the most ridiculous thing. What a joke this is. Okay, so they are trying to figure it out. We're all trying to figure it out. Nobody really knows what the heck's going on over there in Alvin Bragg's office. But all right, we'll continue to follow. Trump's lawyers will have some additional motions to file very soon. Of course, we'll continue to cover that one. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for liking this video wherever it is you're watching it.